Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. If you would like to see how I made these cute little earrings, stay tuned. I'm going to use some white clay. You can use any brand that you like. That's what's great about these projects. Use any clay that you want. It is not important. You could actually use a different color too if you would like, but I found that white is going to work best with alcohol inks. Just cut off a nice big section and condition and roll it out. You do want it to be fairly thick to start with because it will get thinner as we go. So this is what mine is, and you can always add backing to your piece at the very end if you find that your piece is too thin. So it's not a big deal. And I'm using this pretty teal color. You can use any color that you like. I just liked the way this looked. Again, I will cut off a fairly decent sized piece of that. Condition and roll it out. With this clay, you will want to roll it out very thin. As thin as you can get it by hand or through your pasta machine. I did do it by hand. You will place that on your rolled out white clay, being careful to make sure you don't get any air bubbles between the two layers of clay. I'm just running my fingers across it, one side to the other in a sweeping motion, and this is pulling out a good majority of the air bubbles. When I am done, I did have one single air bubble. Boo! But it's okay. It is not a big deal. Once you have that on there, just roll it a little bit. And this is just to finish out getting the two pieces mushed together so they will be connected forever. And then I flipped mine over just so I have a better visual of all of the clay I need to get rid of. So I'm just going to slice away all of that pretty green clay and save it for another day. And just a nice gentle roll just to flatten the other side too. And these are the two pieces and the thicknesses compared to each other. I'm going to use this stencil. I like the different sizes of the circles. You can use any stencil you like. Any other stencil you might have that kind of looks like this, or circles, or triangles, or squares. Really kind of whatever you want. You do want the pattern to be kind of small though. I will place that on my clay and give it a gentle roll. And I did make a boo-boo. I should have put this on a piece of paper so that it is easier to remove from my workstation. But at this point, it is not a big deal. You can just start yours off on a piece of paper. And then again, just start gently rolling it. You want it so that the green clay comes up and through the holes in the stencil. And you will get some gunky gunks on your acrylic rollers, so just be sure to clean that periodically. And that is the clay coming up and through the top of the stencil. I will take my tissue blade and start shaving away all of that clay that has come up and through the stencil. You'll see here I didn't go too deep into the clay, and that is because I didn't roll it enough. So I will give it a nice gentle roll again to get that clay to come up and through the stencil once more. And you can do this as many times as you need to until you have all of the clay scraped away and the white clay underneath revealed. You can also keep all those beautiful little shavings for future projects, scrap clay ideas. Yeah. And it's coming together quite nicely. And again, once I have shaved all that away, I will use my roller to get the white clay to come up and through the stencil. This is to give it a nice, good bond for when we put the alcohol inks on there so that it does not bleed through and it only gets on the white clay. And it is kind of messy for me, so I am going to put on some very old gloves. Reuse, folks, reuse. And I'm going to use 3 different colors of alcohol inks. I have a bubblegum, lilac, and limon. Shake those up, folks, before you use them. Get everything all nice and melded together. You can also use some chalk pastels. This would cut down on your bleeding of the colors. And also they are pretty much just as expensive as the alcohol inks, I find anyway. Sometimes they can even be a little bit more pricey, but if you have art supplies on hand, you will need a paintbrush also, a tiny one. With each of those colors, just put a tiny little dab right on your paintbrush. And then just begin painting your clay with the beautiful pink bubblegum color. And then you will take your next color, mine is limon, and place that on the clay. I'm spacing them out so that the colors are not directly beside each other, so you have a nice, beautiful color variation. And with my last color, the lilac, it's so pretty. Just take that and fill in the remaining holes. Once your beautiful pattern is dry, it won't take long because alcohol inks dry super fast. Just remove your stencil from your clay and be sure to wash your stencil off before using it again. And this is my piece, and my stencil is washed, and I'm going to place it on my clay once more in the open spaces to get rid of a little bit more of that green color clay. This is totally optional. You do not have to make a second layer like I'm going to make. You can leave it just the way it is, and it would be quite beautiful. But I will basically continue the process of rolling my roller over my clay to get the clay to come up and through the stencil, and then shaving away until all of the pieces are gone and you just have your white clay remaining or showing through. And keep those. They kind of look like Easter colors, so you could do like a little fun project. Very pastel-y. And again, make sure that you roll that really well before placing on your alcohol inks. These are the alcohol ink brands that I did use, and you can choose different colors if you want for the next layer, or like I'm going to do, I'm just going to continue on with the same colors that I used before. And then go ahead and decorate with each one of those colors, again, just like before. You can remove that from your piece of paper. And my clay did start to get pretty thin, so it was a little tricky to get it to come off, and it did start to rip, but it's okay because I'm going to trim off the edges anyway, and I won't be using those. Scrap things, you know. And then it peeled away quite nicely. Be sure to wash that. And my back did get pretty messy, so I will end up covering that up. And my piece is pretty thin. I do want it to be just slightly thicker than it is, so I'm going to go ahead and add a backing to mine. And this is actually some scraps I had left over from my previous project. It's a Skinner blend I made, and if you want to know how to make that, you can click in the description box below and see that video and learn how to make that. You want to make sure that it is roughly the same size as your top piece. So I placed the Skinner blend on the bottom and my colored clay on the top, gently making sure no air bubbles are in there. And then cut away those scraps, and again you can save those for future scrap clay projects. You know I like doing those. You can come up with some really beautiful designs and patterns and ideas using your scrap clay. Just use your imagination and you go for it. I'm going to cut out 3 different circle sizes, a large, a medium, and a small. I will need 2 large circles and then 2 of the other size circles. I want the edges to come up and be pretty smooth and flush. I don't want it to have a big lip on the side. So I'm just using the back of the spoon to press down just like that around the edge of each of my circle cutouts. Once I've gone around the edge, it doesn't have to be perfect because I will be using some sanding paper to fix that later on. I'm going to take my large circle cutter and place the circle that I've cut out on it and kind of gently press it in there. You want it to start to form and take a bowl shape. And I did press a little too hard that time. But pick it up, put it back through, and just start gently pressing on the sides there so you can have a little lip on it. Once you are ready, push it down and through the bottom, and then you can just use your fingers and a flat surface to finish out the dome or bowl shape. And then just use your fingers and you can make it come up and over a little bit more. I'm going to place those on the back of a baking pan, get them into the dome shape that I want. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because you can sand and make it all nice and beautiful in the end. But go ahead and place that in the oven and bake it. Once baked and cooled, remove from your baking pan. And you'll see that the edges are kind of messy. Let's go ahead and fix those up. Just take some sanding paper and you can sand down the rim of it and the back side. I'm not going to do any sanding in the middle where the beautiful colors are. And this is it, sanded. And now you can move on to resining. You'll resin the inside, the rim, and the back side. And I'm just using some basic resin. And that is it. Makes the colors come out and stand out very beautifully. And the back is all done, nice and shiny. And I did that with all 3 of my pieces. I'm going to use my hand drill and drill a hole in the center of each one of my little cups. Just get it as close to the center as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. I kind of like that about this project. And once I have my little hole in there, I will continue on and do my other 2 pieces. Now they're all ready to go and be assembled. I'm going to take a stick pin, place it through the largest one, and I'm going to use this little bead. It's like a jump bead. I don't even know what it's called, but just take any kind of bead that you want. I'm just using this metal one, and I will place one in between each of my layers for my little bowls or cups. And once you have that stacked on there, you can take any kind of bead that looks good with your project. I'm using this really pretty light greenish colored bead. I think it's so beautiful. Placing it on the very tip or as close to the edge as I can with just a little room, leaving a little bit of the stick pin exposed so that I can bend it down and over. I did struggle with this just a little bit. My hands were extra shaky today, but I did manage to do it, and that is what is important. But just bend it down and over. And then just shape it however you want it to be. And once I got that how I needed it to be, just place that all the way down flush, and of course, throw your piece, flush against your little bowls so that you don't have any spaces in there, and cut off the back side as close to the bottom of your bowl as possible. And then you can just place a little bit of super glue in there. Be very generous with that. And then let that dry for about 30 minutes or so. Make sure it's nice and dry. And then you can put another layer of resin on the back. And I'm going to cover the entire back side again, paying particular attention to that middle part, so that it is nice and bonded and stuck together and will hold up nicely. And to hang my piece, I'm going to use my drill tool again, and I'm going to use a small, a medium, and a large size. I'm going to start with the small size and work my way up to the large, so that my clay doesn't chip or rip or break in the process of this. It was just a little bit tricky just to kind of get it started, but once you got it going, it went pretty fast. You want to put it as close to the edge as possible, but leaving enough room so that your jump ring can fit through and over the rim. And then just change out that smaller size into the next size up. And I'm going to start from the back to the front this time. And since that hole is already made, it goes by pretty fast. Just make sure it goes through there all of the way. And then I will change that out and do the largest size, making that hole big enough for my jump ring to fit through. Take a jump ring, large enough or small enough to fit through the hole. And then you can place on your earring hook, however you want to hang it. And then these are them, all nice and beautiful. I love the colors. They're very pastel-y, and it kind of reminds me kind of Alice in Wonderland kind of a feel, just the cups and the colors and the circles. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you like this video, and subscribe to my channel. And of course, I will see you next week, next Tuesday, for another fun adventure. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!